Hey there, I'm Janice Dublin, a character animator, and this is Animation Admiration, a deep dive show that admires animation. In this video, I'm going to discuss two more of the Nobodies from the game Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts was animated by Japanese game company Square Enix and a collaboration with Disney. The Nobodies I'm going to show you today appear in Kingdom Hearts 2. Previously, I did a Kingdom Hearts analysis on 5 of the Heartless enemies and an analysis on 2 of the Nobodies. If you haven't seen those, there will be a link in the corner and in the description. In the Heartless video, I explained how the Heartless were animated based on character-driven reasons, and that I think they're all like clueless puppet masters, pretending to be whatever their outer form represents, which explains a lot of their odd behavior. Nobodies, on the other hand, I discussed as being more free-form and blank in terms of character. Nobodies have intentions, but it's unclear what they are. They don't have hearts, which seems tied to their lack of color and playfulness, and they're also said to not possess emotions. All of these things left me thinking, how does this translate to an animation style? How did the animation team give these beings movesets that make sense with these sort of spiritless traits? Well, with the sniper and assassin, we saw the Nobodies playing with gravity, rejecting physics, stretching and bending and flowing. I think the animation team saw Nobodies as beings who deny their forms and just do whatever they want. Let's look into this even further by discussing 2 more examples today, the Dusk and the Sorcerer. Just a reminder, if you do enjoy this video, please don't forget to give the video a like. It really helps me out. Right, we'll start with the Dusk Nobody. I think the Dusk embodies the empty inside but free vibe the Nobodies give off, which is funny because its design is showing me the opposite. We have a human-like body, it's got the long pointy feet most Nobodies have, but rather than having the hands simplified into a mitten, it's actually got long individual fingers that are bound together by 4 straps. The Dusk's boxy head has what looks like a zipper, which when opened reveals a hidden spherical head with a jagged mouth. But even though it's bound up in such a way, it still moves as if it's a free spirit. For this idle animation, the Dusk does a super fluid bobbing motion. The movement is relatively large and eye-catching, and uniquely, its head stays leveled as it goes back and forth. It dips, but doesn't nod or turn at all. In a typical idle animation, everything on the body seems to move at least a little bit, but even this open zipper is completely still. Now, when animating, it's best to place emphasis on parts of the body that are important for what's happening at the time. To emphasize, you can either make something move the most out of everything, or the least out of everything. The placement matters as well. For the Dusk, the head is the topmost part, and it has the least movement. So even from only seeing this idle animation, we can guess the head is going to play a big part in its movement style during a fight. To get around, the Dusk either slinks along the ground or does a rather terrifying walk cycle. Just like its idle animation, it keeps its head steady while flopping its body around. Lots of squash and stretch in the torso and legs. Part of the creepiness is in the timing of its legs. As one foot hits the ground, the other lingers for quite a bit before the leg speeds up into a bent knee pose. It lingers a bit more and then speeds into the foot hitting the ground. This type of uneven speed is unnerving. Plus, the lightness of the steps helps draw our attention to the head again. It's almost like the head is lifting the body up so that the legs can feel weightless. The Dusk is limber and flowy, like an octopus, and likes to slip and slide its way through life. It does a move where it winds itself up into a wheel and rolls quickly through the air before popping into an upside-down walk cycle. After swiping at us, it gently floats down, looking as if it's skydiving. Here, in a more octopus-like way, we can see it fly through the air, the top of its head leading the way. The limbs swim fluidly behind it. As it begins to land, the body stretches out until the head touches the ground. This way, it can collapse down like a spring to prepare for a headbutt. The hands and feet steady themselves against the floor, and the Dusk's back shoots forward. The animator keeps the head tucked in until the very last moment, to help exaggerate the timing of the hit. That is one big head. The movement needed only 3 frames of big head in order to emphasize the power of this attack. After such a fast move, the body here slows down into a bunch of closely spaced poses, which helps the contrast even more. Another flowing octopus-like move the Dusk does is this one here. From a standing position, it squashes down, keeping a clear silhouette with its arms bending outwards. Throwing its hands up, it stretches into a big backflip. The legs get insanely thin from the stretching. It gathers itself up here. Then we see another exaggerated move. In one frame, the Dusk hits this Spider-Man pose, then immediately stretches down to suck its body into the floor. It recoils from the speed by bobbing up and down a bit. An odd part of this movement is this particular frame. The Dusk is on its way down, the arms moving in an opposing action, and the head still, but then for one single frame, it stretches much higher. The next frame continues down below the one from earlier, and in my opinion, this outlier frame isn't helping the action, because look, when I play this in real time, the outlier is actually oddly noticeable. Because it's so fast, it's something you sort of sense rather than see. I suppose it kind of helps make the Dusk look stretchier than it is in that moment, so I don't blame the animator for doing it, but still, having a single frame do something so radical can be disruptive and break the smoothness of an action. Overall, the animators made a lot of interesting choices for this nimble and slippery creature, all of which worked to give it a unique and memorable vibe. So, like we learned last time, most nobodies are directly controlled by members of Organization XIII. The Dusk is a minion of Xemnas, and actually the Sorcerer is too, so unlike the last episode, I will discuss the connections between these 3 characters' animations altogether later in the video. Now we move on to the Sorcerer Nobody. This nobody is a bold and unpredictable magician. I mentioned earlier how the Dusk has been bound up, and we can see here that the Sorcerer has suffered the same fate, and even worse so. Its head has been completely bound by a crisscross of zippers. Its hands are hidden, zipped up together in front of the body. Though the bottom of its outfit is free, it billows out as if it's caught a strong wind. There's tons of overlapping action, which means the different sections are all starting at a source and flowing one by one over each other. This skirt seems to be all one huge piece of mesh on the Sorcerer's model, so to have rigged it so carefully and animated it so wildly is impressive, though it does clip into itself on the side here, so the animators weren't being 100% careful. The top of the body displays amazing overlapping action as well. The Sorcerer just totally denies its form, literally collapsing into itself with every movement. It's alarming, and part of that feeling is because of the shape of the arcs it's drawing. If I track the arcs its hands are making here, we can see it's making a very jittery figure 8. A typical arc would be quite smooth and easy to track. Making this so jagged helps add to the chaotic feeling of this idle animation. In battle, the Sorcerer continues this chaos within itself, yet it also exudes a stern and focused nature. Its movements aren't varied and flashy like some of the other nobodies, and because the Sorcerer doesn't do any specific moves with its own body, it's able to stay locked onto us, never showing its back. These pink blocks do all the work. And I'm not gonna really focus on the blocks, only because they're pretty detached from the character itself, and there is a lot about the main body I'd like to talk about. The Sorcerer shuffles around the battlefield, taking its time to follow Sora, keeping up practically no defense. We'll take a closer look at this shuffle here, because it's pretty insane. The Sorcerer's just up here vibing, then all of a sudden, its entire stomach shoots to the left. The other body parts follow along until the chest stretches out, then the head squishes super thin before falling into place too. It is hardcore breaking itself. I love this so much, but I also hate it. As someone who's used to average character rigs that work in normal animation styles, this animation looks broken. Like, it looks like what happens when an animator is bored and they mess around with the rig controls, pulling them every which way and breaking the character model just to see what happens. I used to do that all the time with my 3D projects. But the way the Nobodies animators got away with doing this sort of movement for a final animation and making it look great blows my mind. From what I can tell, there's a rig controller at the hip here, one below the hip base, and one at the rib cage. As the move gets going, we see the middle controller moving straight left, which if I was a bored animator, that's what I'd do. But see here, the lower and upper body twists a little and bends in an opposing action that complements the movement. This is what keeps the animation from looking super broken. It's not just one lone controller moving by itself. After hitting the side here, the two other body controllers start to follow. The amount of stretch the animator got this upper body to do is particularly horrifying. Like, I would never push a rig this far. Pushed too far, the model's mesh will clip into itself or pop and bend the wrong way, but somehow they've pulled it off. Another great, if not ultimate example of this stretching witchcraft is when the sorcerer is staggered by Sora's attack finisher. Here we see two sorcerers knocked back, lying down in midair. In one frame it sucks its body in, the next frame starts inflating its arms out, then this nobody flattens itself into a pancake. I've never seen a human-shaped rig capable of doing this before in my life. You can kind of see the mesh of the model clipping and breaking here underneath the skirt, but overall it looks great. So props to the rigging and modeling team that made this possible. Also props to the animator who pushed so far, and the director for letting them do it. The sorcerer definitely shows off the stretchy, formless nature of the Nobodies well. As I mentioned earlier, both the Dusk and Sorcerer are controlled by Xemnas, and from what I've seen, their movement styles are actually quite similar. The two Nobodies seem to represent the two sides of Xemnas' fighting style, the physical fighter side and the magic sorcery side. Xemnas is clearly a magical sorcerer, but he also isn't afraid to move in for close combat like the Dusk. Overall, Xemnas is a quick and unpredictable fighter. His animations are filled with super open poses that highlight his boldness and show how unafraid he is of battle. One move the Dusk definitely took notes on is this reversal dance Xemnas throws Sora into. We can see that whenever Sora does a reversal, he spins up around Xemnas, causing him to miss his attacks and sometimes spin along with him. This must have been too high level for the Dusk, because when it gets reversaled, it stops what it's doing completely and twists up in confusion. It does have the open posing down though, and its nimble traversal and close quarters fighting style match too. The Sorcerer seems to take much better after its master. It copies Xemnas' stoic way of casting magic. He tends to float idly by as his lasers and dark spheres do all the work, just as the Sorcerer stays a fair bit away and lets its pink blocks do the fighting. There's an attack the Sorcerer does where it turns its blocks into two swords that sweep at Sora and the crew. It looks surprisingly similar to this sweeping double light sword attack Xemnas does in his data battle. In that same area, we can see Xemnas sliding around the space like the Sorcerer, and often guarding himself with a large wall of light containing this familiar block pattern. And so, once again, we've learned that Nobodies are a free-form class of enemy that may be spiritless on the inside, but thanks to the animation team, their slippery, unpredictable, I do what I want nature shows through loud and clear. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know what you're thinking down in the comments. Subscribe for more, leave a like if you enjoyed, and share the video with others who might enjoy it too. Follow me on social media for updates, and I will see you next time.